Hi guys, hope you guys are having a good Friday. I've had a good week. It's a weekend now. So since all my followers either want to upgrade their car, or they just want to buy their first car, or they want to buy another car for that matter. There are people that just had a car. I've interacted with followers that gave up on owning a car, and they had certain problems that they faced with their cars. So today I'm going to be talking about let me pass this way. So today I'm going to be talking about problems that will make you regret ever buying a car. And there are quite many problems that will make you regret ever buying a car. You know, have you made a purchase, and then after some time of owning it, you thought, my God, why did I even buy this thing? I should have kept my money. Now, there are a number of problems that will make you regret ever buying a car. I'm going to be talking about them because not once, not twice, I've actually thought to myself, and yes. And if you're not strong-willed, if you don't love cars that much, you will give up on cars totally. Problem number one, and it's very simple, by the way. Hi guys, if you're there, just send me a hi so that I send you a shout out. Or if you have a problem that you have faced that made you regret, now is the time for you to share with us. People are going to be reading to see what problem you faced as a car owner, or if you bought a car, what was the problem that made you regret buying it? Because and before you face those problems, you will think that people are lying. Problem number one is the car battery. You people think the car battery is that simple. If you have an old battery, or if your battery runs out of charge, it can be one of those things that can make you hate your car. And even if I'm a prospective faster car owner, so this is important. Yes, my brother. Run for short. I'm going to talk about that. So I was still talking about the battery. Yeah. You see, the car battery is very important. Actually, without a functioning battery, automatic cars cannot do anything. Sometimes even manual cars, because I've driven manual cars almost all my life. And I will tell you that, yes, they tell you about the battery and full when you're driving a manual car or jakutegula. Sometimes you kutegula and it refuses. When a battery is bad, and you know, if you're a young person like me, you don't have a lot of money lying there on your account. It means sometimes the battery will break down when you don't have money to buy a new one. Yet there are so many times that battery will break down, and you have to buy a new battery. And when I had just started driving, a new battery was around 100, 120. The N50, the most common battery. That's the battery that is put on most cars. The most of the personal cars, my cars, it's the one that is put there. Now it used to cost 120 when I just bought my car. Now it costs between 210 to 260, depending on which battery you buy, where you buy, who your dealer is, how greedy they are. You get. And you may even buy it and it's faulty. You see, they can sell you a used battery that is not very good at 150. So just know a new battery is at 200 and 200, between 200 and 280. But the battery can cause you a lot of problems. Now, there are cars that are very electronic. You know, every time you remove the battery, the electronics reset in the car. The clock, the radio, and all those things. So every time you run out of charge, you're either going to jump start, or you have to hook up a new battery and then replace with your battery after the car has gone on. But I'll give you an experience that I had personally. I get out of home. I go to start. That time I was driving a Dudu. You guys, I'm assuming you know a Dudu. It's that mini taxi, the very old one. It was manual. I had never heard of a manual car refusing to start because of battery. It actually started, and I drive for like a kilometer, and it stops. I buy fuel. The car refuses to start. Now, I called the wiring guy. He was my friend, and he told me, Arthur, I think the battery is the problem. I told him it's impossible. I'm driving a manual car. The battery cannot be a problem. I can kutegula and I go. And he said, no. Sometimes the battery is very bad. And I told him, but the battery was working very well. Stay the battery. You try and get another battery. So we went to this place where they charge batteries, and we got a battery. And sure enough, the moment we put a new battery, I tell you, the car started and it moved. Okay? Now, sometimes your battery will be bad and the mechanic will actually make you buy a fuel pump. When the battery is the problem, your battery will be bad and the mechanic will make you buy sensors, all sorts of sensors. Because sometimes the mechanic, it will not dawn on them immediately that, okay, the battery might be the problem. When your car, for example, refuses to start, and imagine in the garage they also have a bad battery. For you, in your mind, normally, and I'm speaking from experience, normally when you have a battery and it has been working, you think it can't just break down one day. But it's possible. Because you have not been maintaining, it can break down there and then. So they bring another battery, it does the same thing, and then it might be that your mechanic is either a thief or he just doesn't know what to do. The mechanic will tell you that the battery alternator is the charging. So you pay the money to fix the alternator, they go work on the alternator, they bring it back, they put your battery, something happens tomorrow. I've seen people suffer with batteries. I'm sure even you yourself, you have seen guys on the road where you find cars being jumped every now and then. Sometimes the car owners have tried everything. It's not until they decide that, okay, the battery is $250,000 to buy, let me just buy it and put it there. It's not until they buy the battery that the car actually stabilizes. Okay? Some cars require bigger batteries. And you put an N50 when the car is supposed to have an N70 or something bigger than that. Okay? And then you put it there. So your battery could actually become a problem. How else could the battery become a problem? One time I'm heading to the airport and I've put my fuel. I no longer have any more money. The only money I had is fuel in the car. For someone to drive me to the airport, I'll come back with the car. And there is this mechanic. He's trying to fix something. He knocks on the positive terminal of the battery and he also knocks on the body of the car. Just like that, the distributor died. It was a Caldina then. Just like that, the distributor died. What I did was to look for a new distributor because I called the wiring guy and he checked the distributor and said the distributor has died. But the reason the distributor has died, you know, the cars that have distributors, most of the cars that we have now don't have distributors. But back then, cars had distributors. It gets the current. Is it fine? So back then, cars had distributors. You want to get him checked at all? Huh? So back then, cars had distributors. Now the Primos came with coils, and then the coils basically changed the game. Okay, so now cars have coils. But the distributor then would collect all the current and then distribute it whenever it needed to go. But my distributor dies because the battery was mishandled. The battery can also become a problem for you because the very same battery can actually get your car to burn down. The battery controls most of these electronics, or let's say the battery terminals. Okay? If the terminals are wrongly handled, a motor can okay? If you mistakenly and consistently, and it happens if you have seen how short circuits happen, if negative and positive get joined for a long period and the current is from the positive terminal is a lot, it will definitely create a fire. Now, if that happens in your bonnet, the entire engine room can actually burn. And if you're not careful, the engine room will burn, and even your cabin where you sit will burn. So the battery is a very important, very delicate piece of equipment in your car. And that's one thing that can make you regret ever buying a car. Now, imagine your battery breaks down when you don't have money. You know what that means? It means you cannot drive your car. You'll try to borrow around and you'll not have money. Okay? No one will be able to either give you money or lend you money. Now, you can't buy a battery, so you can't drive your car. And all these problems of your battery dying down can be solved by one thing, or prevented by you maintaining your battery. If you have a battery that uses acid, the battery acid, what you need to do is you need to go to Uganda batteries or an unauthorized dealer and get them to check your battery periodically to make sure that the water is in the right place, to make sure that your car charges the battery properly, to make sure that the battery also keeps charge. You get, and then you'll have solved some of the problems of the battery. Number two, you need to handle the battery terminals properly. Don't let anyone just handle them. Yes, Mr. Kamoli, my number is 0752 991 051. I'll say it again later on, but it's 0752 991 051. So the battery is very, very delicate. That's one problem that can make you regret ever buying a car. You will start thinking of any motoka najigura ku muntu muchamu oba muntu yanfera. You'll start thinking of any motoka oba bandoga. Trust me, there are things that will happen to a car and you start thinking you have an uncle that doesn't wish you own a car. Problem number one was the battery. Problem number two, and it's also very simple, it's plugs. You know what the plugs are? The plugs are put in the engine. They get energy from the pistons, and then they push that current through the coils, and the power is distributed wherever it needs to go. So those plugs, one thing that can happen to a car when it has a faulty plugs, one, the car stalls or kupipira. It stalls when it has no energy. You cannot go uphill. Sometimes the car completely refuses to start. Okay, now if you have a bad mechanic, or if you don't have a good friend like me who will tell you that when you buy a Toyota car and you're sure the engine is in good shape, go to Toyota Uganda and buy plugs. If you buy a Nissan and you're sure the engine is good, don't go to a Nissan distributor. I don't know who that, or buy to Victoria Motors. Go to Victoria Motors. Buy plugs from Victoria Motors that are genuine for Nissan. If you buy a Mitsubishi, still go to a distributor. Buy plugs. Put the plugs so that in case of any stalling problem, you know your plugs are not the problem. You get. So you get a mechanic that is not as honest, and your car is stalling, and what they do is they'll keep buying poor plugs because you give him 100,000 to go and buy plugs, but he wants to keep 60k and buy plugs of 40. So he will go and buy plugs of 40,000, keep the 60, he puts the plugs die in the next 2 weeks. You get what I'm saying? And it happens to a lot of people. So you keep driving your car, it keeps stalling, you get a lot of problems on the road, and it's the plugs. But if you have a mechanic and he knows it's the plugs, he will not keep telling you that the plugs he buys are the problem. He will keep telling you your engine has a problem. Okay? He will tell you your engine has a problem, and that what you need to do is to kusiba the engine, because they get a lot of money out of kusiba engine, what we call engine overhauling or engine rebuilding. Okay? So he will keep advising you all those sorts of things. I'm telling you, these mechanics have told you. These mechanics are not your brothers. He will do anything to get a lot of money out of you. Because plugs are mukaga, but in overhauling the engine, he will tell you need 1.5. He will use about 600,000 and he will eat the rest of the money, 800k. And he will rebuild the engine in like 2 days. So do you know what it means to get 800k in 2 days? You get, and after that he will tell you need to buy engine oil, you need to buy this and that. You get what I'm saying? But the problem normally stems from the plugs. Majority of cars that have stalling or okupipira, okay, the easiest way of explaining okupipira is stalling. You be driving on the way in the motor car, it loses energy. Let's just say it loses power. If your car constantly loses power, one of the places they will look is the plugs. My audio is making, let me read. My audio is making so much noise, it might be the phone holder. Okay, let me change the phone holder then. I have 2 phone holders here. Thank you very much. So I think that might be better. That might be a better phone holder. So I was still saying, majority of the time, is it clear now? Is it clear now, brother? Please tell me if the audio is clear. Yes, Dr. Chiwanuka, is the audio clear now? So I'll continue going on. Normally this phone holder doesn't have a lot of trouble. Yeah. So I was saying, majority of the problems majority of the times that your car is kupipiraring or losing power, you can't go uphill, you can't drive at certain speeds, your car is consuming fuel. Sometimes the plug is the problem. Okay, the plugs are the problem. Now stick around to the end. I have a very important problem that I found out that most mechanics even don't know. So the plugs, you need to make sure that if you have a Kanga, you want it, you love it, you want to drive it the way I drive my car, 80 kilometers a day, and I have no problem. Buy the right plugs for your car. Go to an unauthorized distributor of your brand of cars. That's why it's important that you don't buy cars that don't have distributors here. Like you don't buy Mazda. Who is the factory? Who has the factory outlet of Mazda here? You get what I'm saying? You may end up getting a lot of problems. You don't want to get those problems. So plugs, my brother. When you buy your car like this, go to your distributor, the person that distributes for that car, and buy plugs. Normally they will ask you for a chassis number. It's on the logbook. They look at the chassis number, they type in the computer, and their system tells them, oh, your plug away it. That's how it happens. That's how I buy my plugs from Toyota. And those plugs normally outlive the Chiseka market plugs. Okay, I told you problem number 1 was really unpredictable. You would never know that the battery would cause you so much trouble. Trust me, you can even sell your car when the problem is the battery. Number 2 is the plugs. Make sure you have a good battery. Now that most people drive automatics, make sure, you see, I drive a manual car, but I always have a good battery. Oh, thank you very much. Audio is clear. So I have a good battery even when I drive a manual car. A battery is important. Why? If you drive at night, if you have a bad battery, your lights will not be clear. If you have a bad battery, you can't even listen to radio for 5 minutes in Gojeko engine. That's a very bad thing. If you have a bad battery, your car will even stall sometimes. So when you buy a car, actually if you buy a car, normally me when I'm helping people buy cars, I tell them we are going to buy this car na ye battery to Jibala. So whatever amount we are buying, just make sure that we are going to go to Uganda Batteries and get a new battery. It doesn't kill for you to have a new battery on your car. You'll have a lot of peace. Number 2 is the plugs. So when you're buying a car, if it's a Toyota, you have it in your mind that you're going to go to Toyota Uganda and buy plugs. If it's a Nissan, make sure you're going to go to Nissan Uganda and buy new plugs from the distributor themselves. Okay. Problem number 3. This is very important. Fuel pump. You guys know what a fuel pump is, right? Okay, let me just say the fuel system, which includes the fuel pump and the fuel filter and the fuel sensors, if your car has any. Let's just stick to the fuel pump and the fuel filter, because the other things rarely actually break down. The reason why they break down is because the fuel pump or filter are not doing their job. Fuel filter sits in the fuel tank. Okay? The fuel filter sits in the fuel tank. No, the fuel pump. Sometimes, okay, some cars even have fuel filters there. They have tiny filters. But then you have a fuel filter that is normally in your engine room, behind the engine, or under the car. Some cars, like the Golfs, they have their fuel filters under the car, under the tank there. So if your fuel pump stops working or loses power, what will happen is the engine will start losing power. Like now I'm going uphill. If you're going uphill, what will happen is that emotoka ejja kutandika okuluzinga amaanyi nga bw'oba ovuga epipira. I know you get what I'm saying. And you don't want that. Normally, if a car is kupipiraring or stalling or losing power, what happens is it consumes a lot of fuel. Emotoka bw'eba epipira kitegeeza ogirinnya nnyo okusobola okuva mu kifo. And whenever you accelerate a lot, you take a lot of fuel to run the engine. Okay? Now, fuel pumps are not very expensive to replace. Normally, if you're going to buy the full unit, you'll buy it at around 300,000. But you normally don't need to buy the full unit. You normally just need to buy the car engine of the fuel, or the fuel pump, and the car filter that comes with it. Okay? But if that fuel pump gets a problem, normally mechanics take time to discover these things. Your car is stalling, he will start with the plugs. Now the plugs, you buy the plugs. After you buy the plugs, you realize now the plugs were not the problem, it's still doing the same thing. If your plugs were old, it will solve the problem for the first 1 hour. Then you'll be driving home, the car starts doing mechanical. Then you take it back, he says to say air cleaner. And then you'll go back. Sometimes those things happen. Okay? But you need to know that the fuel pump can do that. How they check it is they go to the engine room. There are those pipes that bring fuel from the tank. Now they will check. Most of the times they will check the return one, the one that takes back fuel to the tank. They will unscrew it and then you start the engine, or you put in the switch, and then they will see how much pressure comes. Now, if the fuel pump has a problem, the pressure will be low. If the fuel pump has no problem, the pressure will be high. That's how. Sometimes you can actually test it yourself if you know where those pipes are. Now, the other problem normally, and this is a problem that we normally don't pay attention to, is the fuel filter. You know, when you go to do service at a petrol station or at your mechanics, they will change the oil filter. Okay? They will probably change the air filter. They will probably even clean the cabin air filter, which does the SC. They cleans the SC that comes to you, the air that comes to your cabin. Now, normally the thing they don't really pay attention to is the fuel filter. What the fuel filter does is it cleans the fuel. When fuel comes from the tank, it goes through the fuel filter and then it goes to the engine. Why? Because the engine, they are trying to make sure the engine doesn't get any dirty particles. So the fuel filter keeps cleaning. Now, if your fuel filter is bad, still, it will lose power. Why? Because it will not be getting enough fuel at the right times. Okay? And majority of the times, people drive these cars. If you have driven a car before, how many times did you change your fuel filter? Chances are you have never, right? So you need to understand that some people drive cars for years without changing fuel filters. And when it breaks down, it will never even dawn to you that, oh, fuel filter sijichusa. Even the mechanic, they will fix all these things, even buy you a fuel pump. And you know, if the fuel filter is bad, even the pump will die quickly. Why? Because the fuel filter is blocked. The pump uses a lot of energy to push the fuel through the filtration system to the engine. So the fuel filter is very important. If you can change it every third time you're doing service, it will do you good. And it will do your fuel pump, because one way to keep your fuel pump healthy is to change the fuel filter as often as you can. And it's not expensive. You'll buy a fuel filter at about 20 to 30,000. Okay, they get it, they screw another one on. Okay, so we have looked at 3 problems. The fuel filter and pump is one problem. We have looked at the plugs, number 2, and then we looked at the battery as number 1. Now these problems are very easy for you to overlook. Okay, those problems are very easy for you to overlook. But especially if you're a first time car owner, the mechanic will steal your money. The mechanic will make you the mechanic will make you think it's a big problem. You get? Let me tell you, if it's an automatic and your car keeps stalling, he will even tell you the gearbox is dead. And then you go away, he fixes the fuel pump, or he puts new plugs. Then you come back, he will not fix the gearbox. Then you come, he has changed the fuel pump, and then you drive away happily thinking, my mechanic is cheap. My mechanic, he fixed it for 700k and you think you saved. Kumbe the guy used the 120 bought Toyota Uganda plugs, put them there. You even drove your car for 2 days before you came for it. So you need to know. Number one, the problem was the battery. It's very easy to overlook. Number two was the plugs. Number three is the fuel pump and fuel filter. Those things need to be changed as often as possible. Actually, you can leave the pump until it dies, because if you fix the fuel filter properly and you take good fuel, the fuel pump will never die. Sometimes the fuel pump is killed by the fuels we drink. Me, I'm driving my 2001 Corolla. Why am I going to a fuel station named Philadelphia? Come on. Why am I going to a petrol station called Stone's Fuel Pumps? My 2001 Corolla is precious to me. I drive it every day. I don't want storing. So I go to trusted fuel stations. You can go to Rubis, you can go to Total, you can go to Shell, you can go to whichever petrol station you trust. Make sure you know that their fuel is good. That way you'll keep your fuel pump good. The other way to keep your fuel pump healthy is one, don't turn your mafuta ga mutwalo. Stop taking fuel of 20,000. The car is yours. Why? The car is yours. Why are you putting little fuel? Like me, I drive 80 kilometers a day. What sense does it make for me to go to a fuel station every day? It even takes my time. Okay, so what I do, I fuel at least twice or once a week, depending on how far I've gone. So it's important for you to understand that for you to keep your fuel pump healthy, you need to take sufficient amounts of fuel. So that it's important that you maintain your car, the fuel gauge at quarter most of the times. Why? At quarter, the fuel pump is submerged in the fuel. And you know, if you have ever touched petrol has that cold sensation. Okay? When the pump is working, it pumps. It means it gets hot. Okay? Now, when the pump gets hot, if you run and you get a lot of heat, you feel like removing your shirt. Now, imagine how the pumps die. But if you give it a lot of fuel, the pump sits in the fuel, it will be cold most of the times. Okay? Now, the other thing it will save is that it will save fuel. How will it save fuel? When the pump is submerged in the fuel, it's cold most of the time. It doesn't generate heat to evaporate the petrol. You know petrol evaporates. Now, when the pump is cold, it will not generate heat to make your fuel evaporate. You know, you've heard of the theory, and I've told you here before, that when you take a lot of fuel, you save. Like my car, when I used to take my liter would take me for 10 kilometers. Now I put a lot of fuel. My liter takes me for 14 to 15 kilometers. I'm telling you. But it's not anything to do with the motoke kusenyo katikere oku mafuta. It's not. It's actually the fact that the fuel in the tank, or what will say, space, there is not a lot of space for the petrol to evaporate because it's ever full or half. And the pump also doesn't generate heat to evaporate your fuel. Keep your fuel pump healthy by first of all changing the filters whenever you can, okay, taking good fuel, and also putting enough fuel. Stop taking fuel of 10k. You're going to kill your fuel pump soon. And you've had a full thing of a fuel pump, the full unit is about 300. For example, for my Toyota Corolla. For Volkswagen and Mercedes-Benz, you can even buy it at 800. I'm telling you. Hey. So now you'll be taking fuel of 10k thinking you're saving, and then one day your fuel pump dies and your mechanic tells you we need to buy a fuel pump at 800,000. Yet, even the fuel you are not wanting to put in the car, you were going to use it. So me, because I know I use the fuel, senior bufuta butonotono. You get what I'm saying? So problem, we have the plugs, the battery, and the pump. I'm going to tell you another problem and you will laugh. Problems that will make you hate your car. All the tires. Ask me how. Okay, I am assuming that you have asked me. If you are driving a car and you have all the tires that don't have tread, you'll have a lot of problems. Problem number one, every time a traffic officer stops you, they will eat between 5k to 20k from you, or they'll give you a receipt. All the tires, me, I've tested it. I've tested me now. The moment I see that the tires have no tread, I go and buy. I put new tires. And don't buy all the tires from, you see there are those guys that sell used tires. Don't go there. Go to a place where you're buying new tires, brand new tires. because a brand new tire, you can ideally drive it for a minimum of 2 years if you drive town service. All the tires can make you hate your car. You will regret why you bought a car. All the tires. Problem number one, traffic officers will make you a garden. Actually, on your route there can be a traffic officer that stops you every day. Just give me tea and go. You will start even making traffic officers your brothers. Hey brother, go, because you have all the tires. Problem number two, all the tires run out of pressure every day. You wake up one time, you have to get to work very early, and the tire has no pressure. Why? Because there is it's not even nails. You know, all tires don't even require nails to put holes in them. A mere stone can prick a hole into an old tire because it has no tread. The rubber is worn out. You get what I'm saying? And every time you go to repair a tire that has a hole, 5,000 down. That is 10,000. But you know how much a new tire costs? For example, mine, the one I put, that is size 14, 70, 195. It costs 180. Now, just imagine a tire that costs 180. Then you have to be repairing the tire every time because it's running out of pressure. You spend 5,000 every 2 days. A year, how much have you spent in a year? So buy new tires when you buy a car, and then you will not regret owning a car. Because maybe you say Arthur said you need to maintain the right pressure, tire pressure, so for fuel, for good fuel costs, you go and check at a petrol station. But if you have all the tires, my brother, you'll be there. You just bought milk for your son, and then the tire loses pressure, and then you have to spend like a 5K to repair the tire. All the tires are a problem, my brother. It looks like it's very simple, but it's not. So normally when we are buying old cars with the people I help buy, I will tell the person, we will look at the tires both. We'll examine the tires on both sides to see whether the car was well aligned or something. To see that it doesn't. There are people that have tires, like he hit a pavement or a stone, and then the tire got a swelling inside. Normally if the tire gets a swelling on the outside, those tire guys, they change it and the swelling gets inside. Now that's a problem you don't see when you're buying a car, because normally when we are test driving, you drive small low speeds, okay? Unless you examine the tires physically yourself to see. You might see that a car has 4 tires that have tread, but they have a swelling on the inside. Now that swelling can even kill you because the tire can burst all of a sudden. And if that tire bursts, you know what happens. The car can roll. Okay, there are so many things that happen. And the tire can actually burst one day when you don't have money to buy another one. So normally when you're going to buy a car, I advise people to know any used car, even if it has tires that have tread, you'll not drive those tires for more than a year. You will have to change the tires sooner than later. So it's important for you to understand. Okay, so we have looked at 4 problems. One was the plugs. Plugs are a battery. The battery is very easy to overlook, but I'm sure if you have taken taxis before, you've seen taxi guys. Avuga manual, but periodically you have to tell the mechanic quarter car. You get. And if you're driving a personal car, you don't want to be the kind of person that stops on the car. You get. And of course, I forgot that the battery, those terminals, if a terminal has a problem as well, it will be problematic. You need to buy terminals and tie them properly. The problem number 3 was the fuel pump and fuel filter. They also need to be in good condition. Problem number 4 is the tire. If you have old tires, you're going to have problems. So when you buy a car, it's important that you have a budget. If a tire is 180, if you're buying 4 tires, they can give it to you at 160. That's a little. You just calculate 800,000 buying 4 tires. And if you buy tires all at once and the car has very good wheel alignment and wheel balancing, you can drive your tires for 2 years from experience. But if you drive up country, that's 1 to 1.5 years. And I'm assuming you're not going to be driving up country again. Okay, if you drive up country that often, you either have a farm there or you're going there for business. Not so? But whenever you buy a car, even if you buy it from the Bond, actually Bond tires are the worst because they are not made for our roads. We live in a hot environment, and here you're buying a car from Japan, where they have a cold environment. Now, you buy a car that has winter tires, you bring them, you want to drive them for 2 years. So when you buy a car from the bond, always reserve your money to buy tires. You can drive them, so that whenever they run out of trade, you can just go into a tire shop and buy new tires. Okay, problem number 5. The windscreen. You see the windscreen. You see that windscreen there, the one that we look through to see where we are going? That thing can become a problem. I've had guys asking me, what problems does a Mazda have? What problems does a Ford have? What you get, all those rare cars. Now, one problem you will face with a rare car is replacing a windscreen. You see, even guys that drive Toyota take time to replace windscreen, because a windscreen now is expensive. When I just bought my first car, a windscreen was about 130. Now the same windscreen is 250. You get what I'm saying? So it's important to know that if you're going to buy a car and you're going to be reckless with it, the windscreen will become a problem. Because if a windscreen has even the tiniest crack, you're driving a dangerous motor vehicle condition. Sorry, you're driving a DMC. That is a car in dangerous motor vehicle condition. Traffic officers will make you a guardian. Because all traffic officers will stop you and they'll ask you to watch over the motor car. And then you'll have a problem. Okay? And then they'll say, I'm going to fine you 100,000. And they'll say, I find it, don't fine me. And then they'll ask you, you get Ozotia. And then you have to call for 5K or a 10K. Now you can't keep doing that. Otherwise, a motor kegenda kutama. So when you buy a car, make sure that the windscreen is also in tip-top condition. Now, there are other instances where the windscreen will actually make you hate your car. One, sometimes these windscreens actually leak. This is the other reason why I was telling you people, don't buy cars from the village. A person in the village doesn't mind sometimes. Okay, some people that live in the village will get offended. I'm not trying to offend you, but I've bought cars from the village so many times. And the person from the village sometimes will not mind if the car leaks. In some villages, just owning a car, it does not matter which car, it does not matter if it leaks, is enough to make you a tycoon. So you'll find that some people don't mind that their cars are leaking, and they'll keep their windscreens the way they are. So you buy a car, all of a sudden you're driving, and the car starts to leak. You get. So it's important when you're buying, the windscreen has no crack. You also make sure that it was fitted properly. Okay, that's number 5. The windscreen. It's important because it not only takes money out of your pocket, but it also makes you uncomfortable. Imagine you're going for a date with a new girl and it rains. You get. Or you're giving your father-in-law or your mother-in-law a ride, and then the entire car is getting wet. That's an embarrassment. And as a man, for example, I don't want to go through that. You get. So it's important for you to make sure that you check that as well. The other thing that is going to make you hate your car are the lights. You see the headlights? The headlamps? These things will make you hate your car. Why? Why am I saying that? We normally like to drive at night, right? Now, if you're going to be driving at night, it's important that when you drive at night, your car can see properly. What I mean by seeing properly is that you can drive at least 10 feet. At least 10 feet. You get. But if you drive and you can't see where you're going at night, you can easily run into problems. You can fall into potholes. You can knock another motorist. You can knock pedestrians. So it's important for you to make sure that your lights work properly. These lights are not very easy to make. Sometimes the lights don't see properly because they are dirty on the inside. Sometimes it's only this synthetic glass that is dirty, and you need someone to actually come and clean them. And one of the easiest ways to clean these lights yourself is you use toothpaste. I think I should do a tutorial on that tomorrow. I already have my car toothpaste that I saved from a work trip, so I can show you how to clean these lights with toothpaste. It's not that hard, and the lights will actually shine brighter. But those lights at night, they'll make you hate your car, because you will be driving and you can't see. If it rains, then it's worse, because normally when it rains, there is some bit of mist, and it's only the people that have very bright lights that can actually see where they are going. So make sure the lights are working properly when you buy. Make sure they're actually bulbs. Some people, when they are selling cars, they remove bulbs and put them in the cars they recently bought or they upgrades. So you need to make sure that that the car you buy actually has functioning lights, and you need to keep the lights functioning. Okay, that's problem number 6. Yeah, my neighbor. So it's important that you have a good battery. It's important that you have good plugs. It's important that you have good tires. Okay, and it's important that your lights work properly. It's important that you have a clear windscreen. Sometimes these windscreens, sometimes the windscreens get cracked, or sometimes they get scratched. And when these windscreens get scratched, especially the fake types, there are fake types even in windscreens. So if you have a fake windscreen and it gets scratched, now it starts giving you reflection of the lights of the cars in front of you. You don't want to have that happening. Okay, so you need to make sure that all those things work. Those are six things. The other thing that will make you hate your car is electronics. When I talk of electronics, I talk about everything that uses electricity in your car. Okay, now the electronics will include the lights, they will include the wipers, they will include the engine itself, they will include the dashboard clock. Okay, they will include the radio, they will include the AC, they will include the windows, the doors, the home. They will include the gearbox if you're driving an automatic. Okay, it's important for you to know that. And I've told you so often that electronics are the most expensive thing for one to repair in a car, because there are not so many car electricians in Uganda, and even those that we have, majority of them are not specialized, so they don't specialize anywhere. And you remember when someone fails to specialize, they are basically a jack of all trades and a master of none. Okay, so majority of them, that's why they keep telling you that that electronic cars are not good, because they have not mastered them. They don't really take time to research. So electronics are very expensive for you to repair, that every time you see a naked wire in your car, you need to make sure that you tape it. Buy black sellotape, that electronic tape, and tape the naked areas on the wires. Okay, this will help you to keep any kind of electronic short circuit out of your car. Some of these things happen, for example, when you drive through water. That's why I discourage you guys from driving through water in my broadcast, where I talked about how to drive during rain and cold weathers. Okay, when you drive through water, if there is any exposed wires, negative and positive, they can easily interact, and you can get a short circuit. Sometimes short circuits can be as dangerous as burning your car. Okay, don't leave any naked wire. And when the wiring guy is working, if you don't really trust their neatness, you need to sit there and see them finish their work, so that you make sure that all the work is neatly done. Electronics will make you hate your car. I'll give you an example. There was a Dudu I used to drive. I've so far driven, I think, 3 Dudus. The Dudu I was driving this time was automatic. So I go to Entebbe and I do whatever I'm doing, and about the time I'm supposed to be coming back home, I drive in Entebbe, you see the cinema hall where it is. I drive and I hit a hub, and the car engine shuts down. So when it shuts down, we pull it, we push it, take it to a garage somewhere. The guys fail to find the problem because everything, almost everything checks out, but the distributor is not getting current. And what happens is I call my usual mechanic, and he asks the wiring guy. The guy tells him the distributor is the one that has the problem. Distributor. We took a distributor, the car still refused. We go back, they say computer. We bought a computer, took it refused. And then at last the wiring guy himself came to the car. He failed to find a problem. We went back. He said, but these distributors you have been buying are bad. He went and brought his own distributor, put it there. It refused. He said, hey, maybe the computer is not working properly. He brought his computer. Now, as I speak, those are 3 days I'm on the road. The car has not moved an inch because, wait for it, there is a wire that was disconnected. So, I take my distributor and computer to this guy. There is a specialist in wiring. His garage does only wiring, and I take these things to him. He says, but these things have no problem. Tell your wiring guy to find the actual problem. The distributor has no problem, the computer has no problem. So I go back to my wiring guy and tell him, you know, this guy is saying these things have no problem. You should just find the short circuit or find the broken wire and fix it. My wiring guy says, they didn't name me. So what I do, I just say, I've already spent a lot of money here. Let me hire a breakdown, take this car to this guy that checked the computer and distributor. So when I took these things to this man, I took the car, he told his boys, put those things back. He told them, find a broken wire. The boys failed to find the broken wire. And I went and told him, my brother, I have work to do. And I'm in the garage. I've already spent 3 days on the road. Come and help me. Your boys will not manage. Come and do it yourself. The guy came, looked at the car. He fell on a wire. He put it back and he told his boys start the car. And I'm telling you, within 30 minutes I was out of the garage because of one wire that had been broken. And this is a true story. This is a true story because I even remember the number plate of the Dudu. It was UAH 765C. It's on Gaza Road. I sold it to one old man there on Gaza Road. He has enjoyed it a lot. So I'm telling you, electronics are very expensive. Now on the road alone, it cost me about 600,000 because of someone that didn't know what to do. And when I went to this guy, he did not ask for a lot of money. He asked me for 60,000 shillings. You can imagine. So electronics can prove to be expensive, not because of the spares you're going to buy, but because it's hard to find someone that knows what to do. Okay? So make sure you buy a car that is not too old, because very old cars have wiring system problems. It has been rewired so many times. Like my Corolla, it was rewired so many times. Of course, now I think I figured out what they were trying to do and all, so I would know where to look in case of a problem. But just imagine if you had never had wiring problems. Me, now I know that a car will have wiring problems. Now imagine you buy a car like that Land Rover. You think the wiring is still in good condition? They have probably rewired it over 100 times. It's a UAD. Now a UAD probably came out in the 90s or very early 2000. It will definitely not be in very good condition. But what I'm saying is, make sure that even if you buy an old car, because you may find that it's an old car but you want to buy it. So when you decide to actually buy it, okay, make sure that the electronic system is looked at, to make sure you don't have short circuits, to make sure that you don't have malfunctioning electronics. For example, there is this guy, this pop star, Yani Lil Puzzle. I'm sure if you watch news, you have seen a time when his car burnt down. And you know what he said? He said that his wiring guy did not do very good wiring on the radio. And because the radio was poorly wired, okay, he had troubles and the car actually burnt down. So wiring can cost you your car just like the battery. All the other things may not actually burn your car down, but poor wiring and a bad battery or bad handling of the battery can actually burn down your car. Always remember that, and don't joke with wiring. Of course, I'm sure you're waiting for me to say the engine can actually make you hate your car. Let me tell you instances where it make you hate your car. One, if you buy a car with a faulty engine and you know it, you will love your car. I'll give you an example. There is a time I bought the Ipsam, the old model, not the Picnic. I bought the Ipsam and the engine was in the basin. Okay, I bought it at around 3 million. The engine was, everything was in its part. It could not start. The owner had bought it. They tried to fix it and the mechanics failed. So I said, let me buy it from you. I bought it around 3 million and put it on a breakdown, took it to my garage, and because I knew the problem, so I knew I had to fix the cylinder head. I knew I might actually face other problems. For example, we found that one of the problems these guys were getting was that the car had a very bad, they had put the wrong piston. Instead of putting the piston for the Ipsam, they put the piston for Toyota Corona Chibina. So you get, that was a mistake of the mechanic, of course. So what I did when I bought the Ipsam is that I took it to the garage, we fixed it, and by the next morning the car was very, very well. Actually, the guy that sold it to me came back to me to bring the logbook and say, my car, what have you done? Buy it, sell it to me. And I said, I bought it 3, now I'm selling 6. And indeed I sold it, actually I sold it 6.8 million. I bought, yeah, I bought it. You're welcome, Jonathan. I bought the car 3 million, fixed up the engine and all those things that needed to be fixed, which included, of course, they included the fuel pump, fuel filter, and all those. And I sold it at around 6.8 to a new owner. So you get, if you buy a car with a faulty engine, you'll not have a problem with the engine. You can actually just buy a car and buy a new engine and place it in the car and have no. You see, the engine sometimes will not be a problem. If you, the only time the engine will make you hate your car is if you buy a car with a faulty engine and you don't know. Okay, but if you buy with a faulty engine and you know that the car has a faulty engine, you can work around it. So it should not really worry you. And with engines, apart from the VVTi engines that I don't trust Ugandan mechanics to actually overhaul, the other old engines, the 3Ss, they can be overhauled properly. Okay, but the other thing that will make you hate your gearbox, especially if you're driving an automatic car. Okay, if you're driving an automatic car, one of the problems, the gearbox in automatic cars doesn't actually stop. What it does, it just doesn't engage some gears. You'll drive the automatic car and it's from number 1 it goes to number 3. It just doesn't engage number 2, or it engages number 1 and number 2 and doesn't engage any other gear. So normally what happens is that you will suffer with a car that consumes, you will suffer with a car that has no power, you get, and you'll work on all these things until your mechanics actually figures out a gearbox here. And then the gearbox is not cheap. For example, the gearbox for the Fielder, for the Wish, for the Rumion, it will cost you about 4 million to buy. And sometimes fixing the gearboxes in automatics doesn't really work. They don't know how to fix them. So buying a new gearbox is always better. Okay, so that's why I was telling you, don't change the gearbox oil at all if you're driving a new car. Okay, so the engine will normally when the car has the problems of okupipida, like stalling or losing power, the problem is actually the fuel system majority of the times. Because the plugs, it will lose power but it will continue moving properly. But with the fuel system, it will actually stop moving because the engine doesn't get enough fuel. Excuse me for just 30 seconds. And mute. So like I was saying that the gearbox might make you hate your car if the gearbox is faulty, especially if the gearbox is automatic. So you want to have a well-functioning gearbox if you're driving automatic. Actually, even when you're driving manual, you want to make sure that your gearbox is good. Although manual gearboxes rarely actually break down. They rarely break down, so you might not have a problem with the manual gearbox. You may not have a problem with the manual gearbox. So I'm going to tell you the very final problem that might make you, of course it's not the final, we may discover other problems, but those problems are very common and they are very easy for you to overlook, or even your mechanic can overlook them. Okay, those problems that I'm mentioning. Now the very last problem that will make you hate your car, and it has made people sell their cars, I almost sold one of my cars myself, it's the engine block. The engine block. That's the piston block, where the pistons work from. Okay, but before, let me take you back to electronics briefly, because you may not know exactly the gravity of the problem. If you have faulty electronic system, your car can actually overheat without you knowing, because the temperature switch might not be working, so the car will overheat. You run out of fuel without you knowing, because the fuel gauge might not be working. Okay, you need to know the oil switch, all the oil light there might not be working because your electronics are faulty. So you may run into engine problems simply because you did not fix an engine light. 2, you may get wet, because if these windows, they can't go up and down. First of all, you may oversweat because you can't put the windows down, or you can't put them up, so it means in Kuba Weitonya, the rain comes through. Okay, so it's important for you to know that you need to work on your electronics. So let me go back to the engine block and my final point. The engine block can make you hate cars, and people have sold their lovely cars they loved because of this. Mechanics countrywide have not yet figured this out. You see, the engine block is where the pistons go up and down. Okay, when they put the cylinder block off, okay, the engine block stays. That's where the pistons actually do their thing. Now, sometimes these engine blocks either get wide, they get widened. That's why you see when they are overhauling diesel engines, they go in those cylinder blocks, the engine blocks, never take them what they call sleeves. They put extra linings of metal or aluminium or whatever they put there. They call them sleeves to make those spaces tighter, so that the pistons can actually have enough pressure. What they call, what do these guys call it? The term has gotten out of my mind. But just know that the cylinder block, if it widens and the pistons are basically playing in there, okay, the cylinder block has widened, or if the cylinder block cracks, your car will be losing power. When you rest, when you're in one position, it's okay. Okay? But it loses power. It loses power in the beginning and then it picks it up. That's a problem that has made people sell their cars. The other thing that happens still in the same area is the cylinder head. You know, the cylinder head has those valves, and those valves, they are the ones that measure how much fuel should go to the pistons. The valves open, the fuel goes to the piston. The valve opens, fuel goes to the piston. You get what I'm saying? So if these valves are poorly timed, they will either give the engine, the piston, a lot of fuel. Okay, if they give the piston a lot of fuel, the piston will get wet. In the end, even the plugs will get wet. Okay. 2, they'll give the pistons very little fuel. It means the piston will have very little fuel to burn. If it has little fuel to burn, it means it will lose power. So those two things. Normally, the cylinder head thing can be figured out after some time. But people have sold cars because cars are consuming fuel. They have changed plugs, they have changed filters, they have changed pumps, they have changed sensors, but the car continues to consume fuel. And in the end, someone decides, but normally the problem is that cylinder head. But of course, it will take examination sometimes for you to know. The cylinder block will make your car lose power, and then you send it. Let me just go through this briefly so that you know if you have a car and you have any of those problems or a problem similar to that, you know where to start looking from. Number one, I said the battery can give you problems. If you want to know how, go back at the beginning of this video, you will see. Number two, I talked about the plugs. The plugs can give you a lot of trouble. Okay, the plugs can give you a lot of trouble. I talked about the electronic system as well. It can give you trouble. I talked about the fuel system, which includes the fuel pump, the fuel filter. The rest of the things in the fuel system really rarely have any problems. It's those two things that have problems. Then I talked about the electronic systems. The wiring. The wiring, if the wiring, my God, my brother, your car can even burn down. You get. Then I talked about the windscreen. This windscreen, when cracked, the policeman will make you a garden. If you have a police station on your way, they'll even know your number. My brother, I'm kulira chai nkuleke. Kulira chai. Lakini itogule mipira. I've been there, by the way. Okay, that will also make you hate your car. I also talked about tires. If you have old, used up tires without tread, my brother, you will hate your car. Because first of all, police officers will make you garden. Two, you'll keep repairing an old tire, which never actually does good work for you. Every 2 days, it will run out of pressure. Okay? The other thing that will make you hate your car is you not having, I've talked about the engine block also and the cylinder head. Those things should be in tip-top condition. That's why when you buy a car that has been overhauled over and over, it's important to know that if you change plugs and the fuel consumption is still high, change the air filter consumption is still high, it's important to think about reopening that engine and have the valves timed. Okay? Have the valves retimed to make sure that the car actually now starts consuming fuel at the right rate. Okay? So let's pay attention to those things and we will enjoy. But other than that, even you yourself can make yourself hate your car. You'll keep knocking, you'll keep scratching other people's cars, and then you'll think that the car has a problem. You'll probably think there's an uncle or auntie that doesn't wish you well. You're driving poorly. So you need to drive properly. You need to get a driving license. Okay, because sometimes if an officer gets you a driver's license, they can even lock you up. They are allowed by law to put you inside, and you don't want that. And the driving permit is between 300 and 400,000 if you're doing it yourself. If you want a driving school to do it for you, they'll charge you about 500,000. So do all those things and make sure then you will enjoy. Okay, so if you have any question, you can watch this video again and then post your question there in the comments. I will answer it in my next broadcast. Thank you very much, guys, for being a very good audience. You can share this video with your friends or people that you know might need this information. I started this channel to share information with the people like me, that information that mechanics will ideally never share with you, because it's how they make money. They make money by exploiting the lack of knowledge, the knowledge gaps that we have. So because over the years I've driven a lot of old cars, I've driven more than 22 cars since 2010. Yeah, so I know majority of the problems that you will face. I know how mechanics will steal you. So that's why I created this channel. I know how to check the cars. Like I said, I drive a 2001 Corolla and I drive it 80 kilometers a day, more than 80 by the way, around 85 kilometers a day. And I've driven the 85 kilometers for a full year now, and I've not run into any problems. The car has not broken down on the road, and I do only regular maintenance. And I bought this car from Masaka in Chavadaza. So when I tell you not to buy cars from the village, I'm talking with experience. Okay, so in my next broadcast, I'm going to talk about the modalities, the paperwork you need to have when buying a car, and I'll talk about if you need to change an engine, what process you need to go through. I'll talk about if you need to get a new number plate from URA, what you need to do, because I've seen the spray paint guys, the guys that repair bodies of cars, they cheat you guys. They have a sticker on your number plates telling you it's going to look as good as you. If police gets you, you'll get a problem. But anyway, I'll be talking about the modalities that go around the car when you're going to URA. Okay, and then I'll try to handle as well the various classes of cars. Someone asked me, what does S mean? The L Tuara, what do those things mean? I'll try to also handle those. Yeah, but other than that, thank you guys for being a very good audience. Share this video with your friends, share the channel, with your friends. Let me get some subscribers. Let me get people watching this video. It's good for me. Yeah. And then I'll also get morale to share more information. Tinka, thank you very much. Stuart, Kamuri, Dr. Chiwanuka, The Logic Hub, Jonathan, and Kaziwe and Nicholas. Thank you very much, guys, for being part of this. And even everyone that has not commented, thank you very much for being part of this. Please share this with your friends. I'm sure this is information that everyone needs to learn, information needs to know. Yeah, I'm going to talk about that. Of course, you can't get a new number plate. You can renew, make your number plate new, but not get a UBB when your car was UAA. That's impossible. But I'm going to talk about that in my next broadcast. Today, I uploaded a video on Toyota Noah for the people that have been asking about it. Just go in my videos. You'll see the video on Toyota Noah. The owner has had it for more than 8 years. Okay. And is actually selling. So for people that want to buy a car that has a history with an owner that has driven it for some time, an owner that will tell you the truth, probably the truth. Of course, you'll have to inspect it yourself to make sure that it's in tip-top condition. Yeah, the Noah in the video that I uploaded today is on sale. Thank you very much, guys, for being a very good audience. It has been a very good 1 hour and 7 minutes. Until next time, ciao.